Hello everyone, and welcome to another edition of the Unminute / Dummy Says, because I must really just be a dummy for making these videos and the videos I make, because, you know, I must not even know what I'm talking about. And I'm just going to start out with a quote that I left in the bottom of the More Info box of the last edition, or the first edition of the Unminute. And Cecil Rhodes famously declared, "To think of these stars that you see overhead at night, these vast worlds which we can never reach, I would annex the planets if I could. I often think of that. It makes me sad to see them so clear and yet so far. We must find new lands for which we can easily obtain raw materials, and at the same time exploit the cheap slave labor that is available from the natives of the colonies. The colonies would also provide a dumping ground for the surplus goods produced in our factories." So last night, or as the Thursday night's last posting of the UN on the UN press releases and coverage, I'm just going to start out here with it's the 1st of October 2009, approving work program, of which it's nauseating to hear what their version of food for work is. I mean, we can all grow food. I mean, there's land. Worldwide we produce twice the food that's able to eat. Makes it confusing when so many people are dying of hunger. So the approving work program, Fourth Committee agrees to consider decolonization. Why would they be considering this? Because they colonized us. Because everything's a quadrant. And now we're going to be going to their whole World Bank process, because this is a fucking bank robbery, is what it is. See, the United States of America has all the guns, and no one has more than us. And, you know, I'm not... They're also coming up with the University of Peace. So this is all from October 1st, and this is just one line. I'm sorry, I keep stopping here. The approving work program, Fourth Committee agrees to consider decolonization, University of Peace, outer space, and atomic radiation items. And let me just highlight false dichotomy, only two options. If one of them, you know, you shouldn't even have to further discuss, like war is bad. Therefore, you don't even need to discuss it. Atomic radiation bad to humans, does really bad things. We die. Radiation bad for us. So the meetings that they have, and especially on in May, there was also the UN Chemicals Conference, ended on a positive note. Yeah, they've got about 80 million US and a trust fund. So also, and as far as atomic radiation, Voyager, that, you know, we launched 2 of them out into space, actually with a golden record, you know, of which the president of the UN at the time, who was a Nazi, and not to get into the whole, you know, semantics here, but, you know, there's a lot of controversy over the president of the UN being, you know, a Nazi and having charges and all this kind of stuff, and his voice is on that record, you know, that we launched right on out there. That's how important this guy is, that his voice is on that record. And Carl Sagan, you know, put this whole thing together, and Warner Brothers, AOL Time Warner, actually owns the rights to Murmurs of Earth, which is now not being published, you know, but I guess that does happen when you run out of copies. And also, getting a copy of, you know, I guess you have to go to the public library or something, but it seems very difficult to get a copy of the actual recordings that are on the record. And because they even put brain waves, different positive thoughts, you know, which, you know, why would the top minds be wanting to put that on a record that we're going to send out for, so if extraterrestrials ever find it? So to go over what they actually said, just to get it through to everyone on colonization, decolonization, the New World Order, what's going on in the world, because they're going over it. You know, I put out stuff on Monday, and they, you know, you see, you know, us lighting up the Empire State Building, you know, in recognition to China. You know, that's, you know, also a plane hit the Empire State Building before too. I mean, kooky little fact there. You know, not saying anything, but I mean, it's just pretty ironic, you know. And also with all this flag waving that we have going on too. I mean, we're Every country is a registered corporation. The United Nations looks at every country like it's a state. So, the state that I live in, the United States, is basically a county in the UN's eyes. Very small and insignificant, because all the laws that seem to come overnight, where does that outline come from? The UN. And this is exactly what they're talking about. This is their Atomic Radiation Improving Work Program. Fourth Committee agrees to consider decolonization, University of Peace, outer space atomic radiation items. In a brief organizational meeting today, the Fourth Committee Special Political and Decolonization approved its work program for the current session, during which it planned to consider more than a dozen topics ranging from the peaceful uses of outer space to the University of Peace and the decolonization of the remaining non-self-governing territories. Meeting for the first time since the start of the General Assembly's 64th session, the committee elected Vice Chairperson Heidi Who Cares whatever from Fox from Finland. Following that action, Chairperson and from Qatar introduced to the Vice. Everyone's kissing each other's rear end. According to the work program document AEC 4./64/L.1. The committee would consider a cluster of items relating to decolonization, among them implementation of the Declaration of Granting of Independence to colonial countries and peoples during its general debate from 5th to 9th of October. Further, in the regard, an aid memoir and an addendum documents on the 0109 and 0109 Addendum 1, containing 96 requests for hearings related to the questions of Gibraltar, Guam, New Caledonia, Western Sahara, and the United States Virgin Islands were issued. The Chief Minister of Gibraltar and the President of the Government of New Caledonia would make statements, the chairperson announced. The committee would devote one meeting to the University of Peace on the 12th of October. 3 meetings would be devoted to consider peaceful uses of outer space from the 20th to the 22nd of October. The committee also agreed, as what its tradition, to establish a working group on outer space to be chaired this year by Colombia, also where Carl Sagan's from. In addition, the committee would consider the United Nations Relief and Work Agencies for Palestine refugees in the Near East. From 2 to the 4th of November, from the 6th to the 10th of November, it would take upon the report of the Special Committee to investigate Israeli practices affecting the human rights of the Palestinian people and other Arabs of the occupied territories. Panels and interactive dialogue were scheduled under items of the University of Peace, outer space questions relating to information, peacekeeping, and assistance in mine action, as well as UNRWA. UNRWA. The committee expected to complete its work by Wednesday, the 11th of November, once action had been taken on all draft resolutions submitted under the last 2 agenda items related to the Middle East. The 4th Committee will meet again on the 3 p.m. on Monday, the 5th of October, to begin its consideration on the issues relating to the implementation of the Decolonization Declaration. So, what's going down? So then, I'm like, man, that makes me sick to my stomach, dude. I really do. I got 2 sons. I'm only going to do these highlights at night. And even following up on it, or even, just reading about what's going on, then to see that they're flat out talking about, it's the United Nations is a mining operation. And they don't care about you. The purpose of you and us and all the lower people in the pyramid, right there at the bottom, is to mine the shit out from under us and hand it over to them. It's all they freaking care about. In the meantime, they're going to put all these chemicals into us and see if they can make a stronger human being, whether it takes putting a man and a woman together, and you've got now Olympic runners that are going, dear God, they're lifting 5 times the Olympic weight as before. Because why? Because they're genetically altering us. That's it. They are not even us. They could give 2 craps. We're just a science experiment to them. What they want is something that they can shoot out to Mars, because what they're figuring out too in this process is that we need a lot of gear because we don't do well with radiation. It's bad for us. So to go over what they started talking about today, and just to highlight the 2nd of October 2009, the beginning of the day was the Deputy Secretary General briefing General Assembly, spells out principal aims of joint strategic plan for strengthening rule of law worldwide. So let's just skip into that. That was what was going on this morning in the United Nations. Because you're going to see this all, everyone's talking about what's happening to them locally. This is the asshole it's coming out of. Right here. You just go to UN press fucking releases. If you're going to Google something and you put it in the search engine, just put in UN press releases right next to it, and it's going to give you a piece of crap showing where it originally came from, because that's what the UN does. They discuss a thought, then all their little international lawyers and attorneys get together and start putting their viewpoints in. See, the UN didn't even have to do that work. They went, and then everyone started molding a piece of shit out of it.